afternoon. Welcome to this Monday's meeting. Jim Smithwick is going to lead us off. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Rusty. Robin's coming up to give our invocation. Out of respect to the university and everything that's happened in the past few days, if we could have a moment of silence for the university and their family. Robin will lead us in our invocation.
This afternoon I'm going to offer a poem to serve as our prayer of thanksgiving. Please, if you choose to bow your head, this would be the time to do that. This is a poem by Mary Oliver. The summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper. I mean the one who has flung herself out on the grass, the one who's eating sugar out of my hand, who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. You may be seated. Mike Gorman is going to welcome our visiting Rotarians and guests. During this time, if you have an opportunity, if you please hold up a card bucket. That's to raise money for Alzheimer's research, to give you spare change for the dollar bill. Thank you.
Thank you, President John. I want to welcome everyone to the Rotary Club. We have 4 visiting Rotarians at this point. If you will wave your hand or stand so we can recognize you. From the Lake Mary Irmo Club, we have Joel Collins. Joel may be back. A lot of people that came in right at the last minute back up to the food line, so we'll welcome Joel. Tony Thompson from the Capitol Club. Tony's over here. Welcome. From Columbia East, Jim Hudson. I know Jim was toward the end. He may also be back in the food line. I think we all know Jim. And from the Lexington Club, T.R. Parrish. Over in this direction. Welcome. Imagine we have several guests today. If you're a Rotarian and if you brought a guest with you, if you will stand, we're going to bring a microphone around to you. If you'll introduce yourself and your guest to the club.
My name is Elliot Powell, and I'm honored to have as my guest today Dickie Johnston's a sweet mate of mine. He was the uncle of our President John, and he was excited to see 2 wonderful speakers today, so he came to participate.
Welcome.
My name is Robin Waits.
I am.
I'm pleased to have today John Dozier. John is the Chief Diversity Officer for the University of South Carolina. He's also a member of the Board of Trustees at Historic Columbia.
Rogers, and it is my high honor to have with me as my guest
the good judgment to return to the greatest nation in the history of the planet.
I'm Roy McCrory, and I have my guest today, Dr. Nelson Weston, graduate of the university, also a captain of the football team. Sure wishes he had you, Marcus, to block for when he played. Years ago.
I'm Jim Reynolds. It's a pleasure to have Karen Blackman as my guest today. Karen is Business Development Manager for Russell Jefferson.
Welcome, Karen.
Walt Martin, I'm pleased to have with you as my guest today, Philip McWilliams. Philip is a double Gamecock. He received both his undergraduate and law degree at USC, and he is an attorney with Nelson Mullins.
My guest today, I have Ty Watts, who is currently the president of Richland County Neighborhood Council, the president of the Columbia Council of Neighborhoods, the current president of Neighborhoods USA, and also a candidate for Columbia City Council, the at-large seat. So folks, we have an election coming up soon.
I'm Lee Turner. I'm pleased to have my guest today, Robert Price, who is the owner and CEO of the Ray Market Research.
Apologize for the purple flag.
Welcome, Bob.
Hi, I'm John Denise, and it's my pleasure to have and introduce Pelham Spong. Pelham actually works for me, but reports to Sonny White, so we were hoping Sonny would be here today. But Pelham runs a program called the GRID program, which is Growing Resources in IT, and they take underemployed or unemployed people in certain categories like ex-military and minorities, give them some really great training, some very extensive IT training out of Midlands Tech, and then they go to employers to try and find them on-the-job training opportunities. So if any of you all are looking for more entry-level IT talent than we normally provide, get in touch with Pelham at Midlands Tech. Thank you.
Welcome, Pelham. Do we have any other guests or Rotarians that came in last minute? If not, everyone have a great Rotary week.
Thank you, Mike. Bob Warren with Elias and Health and Heavens.
A couple things. Rex Wilson's wife is at home now. She has some very serious health difficulties, and we want to keep Rex and Paula in our prayers. I got news that Mike Biediger, a member of this club, received the Irmo Chambers Chairman's Award last Saturday night. We congratulate Mike. Dale Collins, who's a member of the Lake Murray Irmo Club, a frequent visitor here, was just elected as president of the American Board of Trial Advocates. That's a national office, and we congratulate him on that. And Rick Noble and his wife Lynn, keep them in your thoughts. They leave on Wednesday of this week. Will be gone until 23rd of February. They're going to South Sudan, the world's newest country. Became independent after a very difficult civil war. So they'll be over there under the auspices of the Presbyterian Church on a mission trip, and they will be coaching new leadership in the areas of education, administration, governance, and helping them as this country moves toward a viable democracy in that part of Africa. So Rick, we'll be thinking about you on your trip. Well, it's February. It's a great month. February is Black History Month. February is Heart Month. February has President's Day. February has George Washington's birthday, Abraham Lincoln's birthday, has Groundhog Day, and Valentine's Day, which, in case you did not know it, is coming up this week, which reminds me of the three guys who were talking about what they were giving to their wives for Valentine's. And one said, I got her that new little dress she wanted. And they said, that's good. And the next guy said, well, she wanted these earrings, and I got her the earrings. And she was pleased with that, and they said, well, that's a good thing to do. And they turned to the third guy and said, what did you give your wife for Valentine's Day? He said, well, I got her a new bag and a new belt. They said, well, that's wonderful. He said, yeah, the vacuum cleaner works a lot better now. hope you do better with that, John. This guy walked into the post office and saw over at the table in the post office this middle-aged, balding guy who was putting stamps on envelopes, putting those love stamps on a pile of pink envelopes with red hearts all over the envelopes, and he had a pile of envelopes. And his curiosity was aroused. He went over and said, "You got a lot of envelopes." He said, "How many? What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I got 500 envelopes." I said, "What are you doing?" So I'm sending out these cards. And he looked at one of the cards, which had been liberally sprayed with Obsession perfume, and they were all alike, and they were all signed, "All My Love, Guess Who?" He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "You're sending out all these cards, 500 cards." He said, "Who are you sending these things to?" He said, "I'm sending them to men in this town." He said, "You are?" He said, "Why are you doing that?" He said, "Business." "Business," he said. "Yeah, business." He said, "What kind of business you in?" He said, "I'm trying to build up my business." "What kind of business you in?" He said, "I'm a divorce lawyer." Is Robert Goins here today? Let me tell you, Robert Goins about 6 or 8 months ago had health and happiness. How many of you remember what he talked about? How many of you remember what hometown he said he was from? Robert doesn't count. How many of you remember what he said he was doing to impress his girlfriend's father? How many of you remember who his girlfriend was? Listen, nobody. This audience is a preacher's dream. We don't remember what we said, any of us, for more than about 6 months. See, a preacher has about 100 sermons. That'll last him 2 years. You don't remember that, so all we got to have is about 100 sermons. That'll last us a whole lifetime preaching. How many preachers do we have here today? Yeah, you can tell me whether or not that's true. But anyway, Robert's girlfriend's name was Josephine, isn't that right? Jennifer, okay. He wanted to ask Jennifer a date so bad he didn't know what to do. And finally, he asked her for a date and then went out. And got home, they went to a movie and came home. They stood on the front porch. And she was a little more experienced in this dating thing than he was. And so she stepped up real close to him, and she got on her tiptoes, and she tilted her head backwards and closed her eyes and pursed her lips and stood there. And Robert leaned over and kissed her on the forehead and said, "Good night, Jennifer." And still standing there, moving closer, she said, "A little lower, please." And Robert says, "Okay, good night, Jennifer." Let me tell you, back in the days when they made manned space expeditions to the moon, they brought back some moon rocks, and they promised them to several universities for analysis and find out what was in those moon rocks. And when they came back with the moon rocks, they didn't have enough moon rocks to go around to all the universities that they had promised. And so the director of the space station was in a quandary. He didn't know what to do because he had promised moon rocks to several universities. And so it had been a dry year in Houston, dry, hot, hard. He was riding home one afternoon and looked over and saw a pasture where there was some cows grazing, and he had an idea. He went out in the pasture and he picked up some cow pies, which at this time was so baked hard they were almost like rock. And he took them back into the space station the next day, and he took a hammer and broke them up and sent the pieces to the universities that had been left out of the first thing. And one of those universities was a university in the upper state of South Carolina, whose name I will not mention at this point. And they received their samples, and they were very excited, and they took them to their greatest scientists, and they began to analyze them. After a while, the analysis was complete. They sent a letter back to the space agency in Houston and said, "We were excited to receive these, We've analyzed them, we've done research on the fragments that you have sent to us, and we are excited to report that we have concluded that this is an important find, because this then verifies something which has just been a myth for all these years, a myth which has been referred to only in the children's nursery rhyme. After analysis, we have concluded that in fact the cow really did jump over the moon. One of my favorite movies this time of year is Groundhog Day. How many of you have seen Groundhog Day? It's a great movie, one of my favorite movies. And Groundhog Day is my favorite movie because here's this old guy who is uncooperative, and he's mean-spirited, and he's stingy, and all these kind of bad things. And he's forced to live one day over and over and over again. And then he changes, and he becomes kind and compassionate and generous. And only when he becomes kind and compassionate and generous is he able to move forward in a meaningful way in life. And I think that movie is a parable for all of us. Only when we allow ourselves to become kind, and caring, and generous can our lives move forward in any kind of significant way. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mason Hardy has an announcement for us on the upcoming blood drive.
One way to be kind, caring, and generous is to give blood. We've got a blood drive coming up. As y'all know, in this club, we promote 3 big blood drives a year. There's something on y'all's table there for the one on February 27th. It's the Mayor's Blood Drive. It's at the Convention Center from 7 to 3. We, as I mentioned before, are a net importer of blood in the state of South Carolina. We actually don't get enough donations to support our need in South Carolina. Therefore, we depend on other states. That's why it's very important that we actually contribute as much as we can, as often as we can. With all the bad weather in the Northeast and in the Midwest states this time of year, donations are down. So we depend on our own donations and those of others. Please try to give blood on Friday the 27th of February. It's our big blood drive. Those folks who do donate get a t-shirt, and they're going to get a 5-pound bag of Starbucks coffee while supplies last. I think we've got 300 orders, so there's a good chance you might get one. But we hope all of you all will sign up right online at a convenient time for you all to give on Friday, February 27th at the Convention Center. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mason, for all your service you do for that each year with the blood drive. Jason, our social chairman, now has 2 special announcements.
I have envelopes, but unlike in Bob's joke, they don't have Obsession perfume. They have prizes that were donated from Ed Robinson Cleaners, Doc's Barbecue, and Constant Car Wash. For the winners of our pigskin pick'em contest, because we have a tight schedule, I'm going to not have folks come up. I'll be at the piano after to give them their prizes, but the winners are, this is hard to do, Doug Stone, Martha Smith, Thomas Persons, Marty Keeney, John Folsom, David Clark, Billy Candy, Malcolm Burton, and Chris Bailey. And if y'all don't remember, those were all the folks who were given Ohio State as the eventual national champion, and they win these prizes. But I'm not done. The oyster roast. I want to just take a second to mention the oyster roast, and hoping lots of folks will come. The oyster roast. It's on Thursday, the 19th of February. We're going to be at Adams Pond on Bluff Road. We're going to start at 4 o'clock with a happy hour. Food won't be served until 5:30, and then we'll go till about 7 o'clock on Thursday nights. Oysters and chili will be served at 5:30, and I said that already. And from the last social, we had some folks mention that maybe some more vegetarian fare. I promise we heard you. We'll have a variety of things for everybody. If you don't like oysters or chili, you won't starve. I want to thank Robert Goins for doing the cooking for us again. Always can use help cooking, so if you'd like to do that and like to volunteer, we could really use your help. One of our new members, Jesse Bowler. Jesse, are you here? He said he might be running late. He is from Southern Way Catering and Doc's Barbecue. He has been a tremendous help. He's giving us the place to use. He is giving us a ton of food and services at cost. Really been a great help. John Backus is doing our beer and wine again. John. Right there. And then the rest of the social committee, Carrie Powers, Travis Hollis, and Catherine Davis for all their support. But please come if you're a prepaid member. There is no cost to come. And I meant to ask, I do not know the cost for guests. $14 for guests and for non-prepaid members. We'll have a ton of fun and lots of oysters and food, and so please come.
Thank you, Jason. Jason, we got some. Jason's been hard at work on the social committee for the last 2 years with Hal's. Hal put a lot of effort into that, started up last year. But because you did the college pick'em, we got you the official locker room T-shirt of the national champion, so you can use that while you're cooking oysters.
Thank you very much.
I now would like to turn over to Don Ryle. Don is going to make an announcement about our LeaderCast event.
February 19th.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to tell you why I'm working on this project. Look at the kiosk on your table that tells you about the brave ones. And who are the brave ones? They're people from all over the world that have shown incredible leadership. And we have that within our own group. We're all leaders, but we never know enough. As a leader, you learn more every day. Isn't that right, Harris? Absolutely, we all do. And I encourage you to look at the lineup and look at the opportunity that you have. We will be at the beautiful new Darla School, and Harris again, I will tell them that you and I have put incredible art there, so they're in for a treat on not just the art, but as I said, the building is incredible, and at lunchtime, which we serve you lunch, you will have an opportunity to tour the building. I want to tell you all what your challenge is. We have 500 seats in the Hootie Johnson Auditorium. We are going to sell out. And I am telling you now, I have bought 5 tickets. I'm taking college grandchildren and a daughter and a daughter-in-law. I challenge you to do the same thing. And if you think you can't stay awake when you come at 8:30 in the morning and stay till 4:30, the networking, the invigorating atmosphere will keep you awake. And what you can do with that is, if each of you in this club would purchase 2 tickets, we are sold out. And that speaks volumes because this money goes to our scholarship fund. And let me tell you something, if you don't want to come, then you pay for one, and I bet we can get Bill Dukes to go through the commanding general at Fort Jackson and give us a military person that you can treat for that day. Also, in your own companies, stop and think what kind of incentive you could give your young leaders in your corporation to treat them to a day with this kind of leadership opportunity, plus the networking opportunities they will have with all of us. So Jack is going to show us a short video, and we have a desk out front, and I challenge you to get those tickets and sell out before March 1st. Tickets are $100. March 1st, they go to $125. Get your bargain now. Thanks.
The value of a life, the value of your leadership, the value of your leadership will ultimately be measured in terms of how much of it you leverage for the sake of other people. When it dawns on you that you're the most powerful person in the room, the beyond you leader stops and asks the question, okay, but how can I leverage my power for the sake of the other people in the room?
We made a pact that we were going to use this platform wisely, not necessarily rating blockbusters, but we said we're going to help inspire and make a difference in the world.
Sometimes the question is daunting and can be really overwhelming. But so often, these opportunities are right in front of us. All we have to do is open up our eyes and hearts to those moments that can change our lives and the lives of others.
There are 6,000 of us crammed into this room here in Atlanta, but if you don't know, that's only like 3 to 5% of our entire audience today. So the rest of you watching are across one of our 750 host sites around the world. We're in small towns like Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We're in 35 different countries: Kuwait, Jamaica, Thailand, Germany. There's some people in Apple, Burberry, Merrill Lynch, Motorola.
You as a leader, you leave a wake behind you in every interaction, in every day, in every project, in every strategy, in every season that you lead.
Have the principles and the ideals that you want to live up to and that you believe are important, and then try not to veer from those and not do things just for popularity. That popularity is fleeting, but it's really important to do what you think is right in every case if you can, and that's also helpful for the people that you're leading.
Tripp Crosby
has joined the meeting. It is time for each of us to stand up, allow our influence to shine bright, and to show the world that we are committed to building a better future for the generations to come.
How you treat others is a measure of you as a human being.
And St. Peter takes out his cell phone and does a selfie. Imagine a world in which all leaders took decisions not on the basis of strategic, economic, or political considerations only, but with a pure motive of doing what was right and what would improve the lives of all, especially the most vulnerable.
When we look at people who disobey their leaders, first question we ought to ask is not what's wrong with those people, but what's wrong with their leaders. It says that responsibility begins at the top.
Standing here at the risk of my life is more important than what happens to my little life.
Be strong, resilient, have an audacious, bold dream for who you are and what you mean to this world. And don't let anybody take that away from you. When danger threatens, it's the leader's instinct to cover their people. It's the leader's instinct to sacrifice themselves so their people may gain. A leader would never sacrifice their people to save the numbers. A leader would sacrifice the numbers to save the people.
Better than this, when you only got 100 years to live.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jack. At our next meeting on February 23rd, we will not be meeting next week due to President's Day, but on February 23rd, Ellen Weaver, who's serving on this committee, will take several minutes out of that program to lead our membership on more of the logistics of LeaderCast, how you can support the event, how you can purchase tickets, and how this can impact our community. I want to say it's an honor to sit by two leaders of our great university here in South Carolina, two men who know a lot about leadership and that a lot of us in this room look up to. And with that, I'd like to turn over to Wes Hickman to introduce Dr. Stevens.